Hey guys, I'm Sumeer, and today I'm with Ajit. This is the first episode of the podcast, and there's a reason why I wanted to go with Ajit first. And that's because about slightly over 2 years ago, when I got my bike and I had it kitted, I went to Ajit, Bike and Biker, and he kind of helped me out as to I was pretty new at it, so he advised me what to buy, what kind of gear to get, what kind of accessories for the bike, and so on and so forth. So I thought it's a good place to
Yeah,
start. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but without any further ado, let's get to Ajit. So, hi Ajit, it's really nice for you to spend the time.
same here,
and,
same here. Meeting
and
after a good.
after quite a while, actually,
Yeah,
yeah. So,
happy to see the same bike that came in.
oh, yeah,
Bike and bike.
it was green. So, I had an accident in Goa and I changed the
Okay.
color to black.
Okay. I think you were dropped in with another good friend of yours.
Yes,
You
yes,
guys
yes.
were riding.
Correct. So he's the one who actually forced me to get a bike, and then I've never looked back since. So it's been
And it's
about
always been uphill.
yeah, it's been 55,000 kilometers in
On
2 years
this, right?
on this. Yeah. So anyway, not so much about me. It's more about Ajit. So when we were standing outside, and when the bikes were getting kitted out, so the I think we met one of your partners, and he was telling us his story. So I actually want to hear from Ajit, and I'm sure a lot of people are interested. Everybody knows Bike and Biker, but I don't know how many know Ajit's real story, his journey into biking, and how he kind of got there. And now you're full time Bike and Biker
Yes,
also.
yes.
So
I take care of marketing. I initially joined while I was looking into sales and stuff, but I mean, that was a job where I couldn't really sit at one place.
right.
Because even my previous job back in IT, sitting at one place was just not my thing. 7 years back in IT, so I think when you move into the marketing field and basically trying to make my hobby a living, I think that's the dream.
So there's very few people who can manage to follow their passion and make money out of it. I think you're one of the lucky few, or maybe you work towards it. So I'd like to hear a little bit about how you made that happen, how that kind of came about. But before that, little bit about yourself, Ajit. Who is this Ajit of Bike and Biker? We'd like to know more.
Uh, to cut it short, I started off my biking journey back in 2012ish.
Okay.
I mean, we've all started with a smaller motorcycle, and we've had the Pulsars, the CBZs, and stuff like that. So I still remember the first time my dad got me the Pulsar 220. He strictly said this is only for college commute.
Commute.
Yeah, and that commute itself was like a trip for me because I was looking at about 55-60 kilometers a day
Wow.
up and down.
Okay.
And I think that's where something bit me in the wrong place and said, this is what I want to do. But again, typical Indian parents, they really didn't see what was coming by and just went with the flow of working, college, and moved into the UK for a while. Worked there, and then post COVID is when I realized, that's not what I want to continue doing.
Right.
And in between the Pulsar, of course, I had quite a few motorcycles in the garage. From the Pulsar, it went down to, I think the Pulsar was the only motorcycle that clocked about 142.
Wow.
And it was a brilliant experience. And post that, I moved to a Duke 390. Did a lot of touring on that. And fortunately, I had a girlfriend after that. And I was forced to pick up a Versus 650. And to be even fortunate enough, I started my venture into the enduro and adventure stuff, and life became a little more adventurous there. We split, which means I let go of the Versus and got myself X-Pulse because I wanted to do more of the adventure and enduro riding.
Right.
Because the Versus and the Dukes, they're really not built for that, right? So that's when I picked up the X-Pulse as well. Quite a few people know me for owning the X-Pulse. But again, that bike, did take me places, but it just didn't have the pep and the punch because you're coming from slightly bigger motorcycles, right? After that is when I realized I would want something that could do everything, my daily city commute, trails, highway touring. And I think that's when KTM launched the Adventure 390. And 1 year from them launching the motorcycle, I picked this up. Close to 2 years now, done about 58,000 if I'm not wrong.
Nice.
It's been a fantastic experience with this motorcycle, and I think we'll do maybe another 50 on this, hopefully.
Right.
Because this is pretty much the time you get a little bored of the motorcycle, but I think there's nothing in the market at this price, and the kind of enjoyment it gives you, I think I'll stick with this for quite some time.
So it's a he or a she, Alaska?
Well, it's a she. The reason,
Obviously.
yeah. She's been a good girl all this while. She's taken a lot of abuse, a lot of falls,
Okay.
but she's never given up in terms of mechanically functioning. And apart from normal service and stuff, the bike has been great. I mean, let's not talk about the bike. You have videos on that on
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah, there's quite a few videos. I've seen those.
Yeah.
So why Alaska?
Well, that's a very interesting story, because when we designed the sticker for my channel, I just randomly came up with mountains and a motorcycle going in between with valleys, basically like a adventure enduro kind of a scenario. And my favorite color is blue, so we topped up the mountain caps with blue and stuff. And then there were a couple of friends who said that looks like Alaska.
Okay.
I said, okay, why not just name the bike Alaska?
Okay, so that's Alaska. All right.
Yeah. But I didn't name the bike the minute I got her. Just about a few months ago is when I started calling her Alaska.
Becoming more personal, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. So born and bred in Bangalore?
I was born in Chennai,
Mm.
but I think I was there for just about 10 days. So I was migrated like a frog to Bangalore.
Right. So this transition from, doing a grunt job or a day job, and then, doing this on the side,
Yeah.
and then making that switch. So what were your emotions and feelings at that point? And what was going through your head? I mean, it was a big risk, right?
It is a big risk. I mean, if you look at it financially, you have a IT job, a normal desk job that's paying you, when your money is coming in. But when you move into the biking field, I mean, I'm lucky to have a job in the motorcycling field while I still do,
Right.
other collaborations and videos. But again, if you're getting full time into this with, no constant pay,
Right.
I think that's where it's a little concerning, because everyone would have their own commitments, and you'll need to work it out. The day you feel you're comfortable in what you're making out of your videos, your collaborations, your rides, your sponsors, I think that's the day you can finally say, yes, I've made it.
Fantastic.
I've still not made it. We'll get there.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. I think I can't say household name, but you say biker, and almost everybody kind of knows who we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised. I mean, my personal experience, of course, was pretty much the same. Saying, I mean, the way you guided us and so on, stuff like that. So, what's your dream bike? Is this what you're settled on, or what's your dream bike?
Well, I still remember when I was a kid, the Booza always, I had posters of it, the Booza and the R1, but I think a lot of things have changed from then, because Boozas are not the place where you can take the motorcycle. It's a nice Sunday bike, I would say. But yeah, coming to a dream bike, it would definitely be an adventure bike. Hopefully KTM brings in the 790 or the 890.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for.
It's a beautiful motorcycle. I mean, it's pretty much like the 390, but of course with better suspension, more power, and you can really play around with the motorcycle.
One of the things I was going to ask you is whether do you prefer the roads to the trails, but quite clearly I think the answer is the trails.
I think coming to the spot also, you would have got a little surprise. Why not take the road and come in here? But these are the kind of places, is really away from the city. We've traveled hardly about 45 kilometers from the city, and it looks like we are a good 150, 200 kilometers.
Yeah, middle of nowhere. It's so beautiful. So thanks for actually choosing this spot. I'm not familiar with Bangalore, so I said, Ajit, listen, I want to do this, and you need to pick a spot. And I think he's picked the perfect spot. Unfortunately, we're not getting the view that we want because the sun's in the direction, in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
but probably get a couple of clips and show you what we're talking about.
Yeah, there's a beautiful mountain range at the backdrop. It's really sweet.
The title of this entire podcast, the series, is the rider's DNA.
Got it.
So everybody thinks we're a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So whether it's your parents, whether it's friends who don't ride, so tell us. So the thrills, the spills, the adventures, the mishaps, the extreme satisfaction, that sunrise, that sunset. Tell us what you feel when you think about things like this.
Well, first and foremost, it's a beautiful feeling to be on the motorcycle at any point in the day, at any point of the year and the month. But most importantly, people who are starting off the motorcycling career, or you want to start touring on motorcycles, the most important thing is get the confidence from your parents, win their attention first, because uh, they are someone who would be there and back you up for during any kind of trouble, right? You don't want to run away from them and just follow your dreams, which is what I totally and I believe in, because there were times where parents were really not happy with me going on the motorcycle. Now it's the other way around. If I take the car for a drive, they're more concerned. If I'm on the motorcycle, they're like, okay, have a good ride.
Actually, that's interesting because my daughter, she kind of, if she sees that I'm upset or anything, so I think it's time for you to get on your bike and go somewhere, because she knows that is exactly what's going to calm me down. So it's interesting you say that. So the kind of guys who come to you, I'm sure there are people who have all kinds of money to spend, and there are the younger kids who've got a lot less money to spend, but riding is a passion for them.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of help them navigate? Because I believe they look at you as a role model, as somebody who's an advisor. You've done a lot of stuff. And so what messages would you have for people who want to kind of take up biking, or they're into biking, they want to kind of do more?
Yeah, so what I've realized is people get influenced by looking at other people, right? So you get into motorcycling, you want to go all out and spend all your money on the best gear possible, on accessories on the motorcycle. I think that is where I would like to, when people walk into the store, they ask for accessories which they might not need. So the first question I would ask them is, what kind of riding do you do?
Right.
How many people do you ride with? A simple thing like intercom, right? If you need an intercom, the first question I would ask is just for you to listen to music, or you're going to be using it with your friends? That's where you expand your budget and get a better one.
Correct.
And in terms of riding gear, yeah, obviously you'll have to spend on a good helmet, your jacket, pants, and gloves. But again, it's not necessary for you to get the most expensive stuff. You might want to start somewhere mid-range, and then you realize, okay, this is what the mid-range gear can do. Now I need a better one. So these are certain things a lot of people miss out, and they spend all the money in gears and stuff, but the bike is just lying idle in the garage. And we have people of the other way. They barely spend anything on the motorcycle and the gear, and they are all over the world. So that is something that you really have to look into. And
Something about rider safety. So I started doing this series on road, not road mishaps, but people who just don't follow the rules, don't follow the law. Now I'm asking that for a particular reason, because how I actually went through this is I bicycle as well, right? So in Bombay, I would bicycle from Bandra to Andheri, which is about 18 kilometers each way through heavy duty traffic. And I always thought that the car owner was wrong because I was on a bicycle. Now I'm on a motorcycle. When I started, it was the car guy was wrong. But when you ride a bicycle or a motorcycle and then you're sitting in a car, you also realize how motorcyclists inconvenience other traffic.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about that, because I think we need to balance the equation a little bit, right?
Absolutely. I mean, see, if you're both a rider and a driver, say you commute to work on a car and you just use the motorcycle for your trips, one thing is you have to respect the motorcyclists, give them way, because your car cannot squeeze into gaps the motorcycles can, which I've personally experienced the last few days, driving the Jeep around. When the motorcycles just cut across, and like, hey, what are you doing? But that's exactly the same thing that, we all do.
Right.
And that's how India is. Lane discipline, while it is still there, it's not thoroughly followed. But I think a message to all the car drivers: one, we are sorry for cutting you off. Two, you need to give us way.
Also, the other one is that a lot of people want to monetize what they're doing. So everybody creates YouTube videos and Instagram stories and reels and stuff like that. So what is your advice to them? How do they grow their following? How do they get more people attracted to them? How do they monetize the efforts that they're putting in?
Right. So you were actually right. A lot of people, get into motorcycling, pick up a helmet, pick up a GoPro, open a YouTube channel, and post just random stuff. And you tend to think that your channel would grow, but that's not how it works. You'd want to put in informative videos, put in travel videos, show trails around which is not there on Google Maps. These are the more easier ways to get a good following. While you might just have about say 8 or 10K followers, they are your real followers, right? They would reach out to you if they want to know anything about your motorcycle, your gear, the trails. The, the numbers really don't matter. It's the kind of connection you have with the outside world, the community. Yeah. A guy with 2 million followers might not even know places like this. Correct. Not know adventure riding. Might have the best gears. A guy with 10K followers might have all the experience in the world.
So what is this bonding between bikers? You long distance ride, you see somebody at a chai ka tapri or at a cafe or on the street stop. And I've had some beautiful experiences meeting people on the road.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
you just randomly just stop and you pick up a conversation, you keep in touch. So what is it that drives people together in bikers especially?
I think that's a very good, very difficult question to answer because the minute you see another motorcycle, I think what I do first is I look at the number plate to see where this pair person's come from. But then your judgment can be totally wrong. He must have ridden all the way from north, but his motorcycle must be K registered or a TN registered, right? So it's really nice to see, especially when you're on a solo trip like most of the trips that you do, when you get to see a group or maybe another solo rider. I think the kind of conversations you have, and you never know, you might just have met a friend for life.
Absolutely.
So,
I've had that experience on a couple of occasions. This random stop, somebody in Lonavala, another guy at Karwar,
yeah.
and very beautiful conversations. You get to know a little bit about them.
Yeah, and the best part is they also, offer help when you go down to their town, their city, and make things a lot more easier for you. So it's really good to have that connection. But yeah, at the same time, you have to be safe as well, not just randomly strike conversations and give information. Vice versa, you'll need to judge the person. You know.
Let's switch a little bit. Tell us about Bike and Biker.
It is, I think, it is definitely India's uh, go-to biking accessories store. I think Bike and Bikers about 8 years now from the time they started. What I've seen is they've started from a really small, like a go down. It wasn't even a store where people would just come in and buy a glove or just some random stuff. And then we moved into the building in Wilson Garden. I think that's the place you
That's the one I
visited
came
as well.
to. That's right.
So we were initially on the second floor,
Okay.
but they did a fantastic job there. Back then, I was a very good customer to them as well.
Okay.
While I owned my other motorcycles, and I think they've come a long way. Is just an understatement because the way the partners have worked, the employees have worked. I think what they are today is I would say the Revzilla of India because we all know Revzilla for the kind of service they have. So that's Bike and Biker in terms of your motorcycling accessories. A lot of people actually think we don't serve smaller motorcycles. Well, to be honest, we do. Right from a you name it, from a Duke 125 all the way to a Honda Goldwing. We have stuff for your bike, so don't think that we sell only premium stuff.
High-end stuff.
Not at all, not at all. While we might not have bike specific stuff for the smaller bikes, we can still guide you through where you can get it. We still refer places, because that same guy who rides a Duke 125 today might come in with a 1250 GS tomorrow. Yeah. So you cannot put that guy down. Every customer has to be treated the right way. Whether he doesn't ride a motorcycle, he walks into the store, he might just asking you questions. Tomorrow he might just give you 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs of business.
Right. Respect for motorcyclists, and I'll tell you the context in which I'm asking this question. So when I ride and I stay at, let's say, hotels, there are some hotels which will, the moment you enter, the guy will start blowing his whistle and saying, no, you can't even stop the bike in the portico. All right, go and park. I said, listen, let me get my gear off. And they are very, very, very arrogant, and they are, it's like a bike.
Yeah.
It's a bike, so he can't come in. And if you come in a Mercedes, he'll kind of fall over himself to kind of let you in. So
you get valet parking for that.
You get valet. So I've had mixed experiences. There are some hotels that no, you can park the bike right here, and there are others who will say no. So in the same context, bikers are either respected or not, because it's not easy to ride.
It's not. Yeah.
So tell us more about the risks of riding, and so my hashtag is sanity on two wheels.
Yeah.
Right. So it's actually an inverse way of saying you're a little bit insane to be on a two-wheeler. You're unprotected,
Yeah.
you have two wheels, there's less protection, you can skate, there's so many things, but we still keep going.
Yeah.
What's your take on this?
I mean, first and foremost, like we discussed, right set of riding gear because that can save a lot of flesh, a lot of bones. Let me give you a 30-second incident that happened, I think, about 8 months ago. I was a little over the speed in the city, and in the city, I also enjoy have my riding jacket and my shoes on, riding shoes.
So you wear gear in the city as well?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So this is the normal attire I'm going to work
Every day.
every day. And I also have the riding jeans, which comes with your knee armors, right? But that day, for some reason, I had a early morning shoot, very similar to what we are doing today, and I did not have my riding jeans on.
Wow.
And on the way back home later in the night, I had a crash, and I still don't remember the crash because that's how bad it was.
Amnesia.
And I think the riding jacket took care of my spine,
Right.
because the D3O, one of the best armors you can buy in the world, that had actually cracked.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So
What speed were you?
I was
You
a
shouldn't
little,
say.
yeah, I shouldn't be saying that. It was a little late in the night. Yeah, it was just totally my mistake. I T-boned a Swiggy chap, and that was a terrible experience. But yeah, coming back to the topic, first and foremost, riding gear, you never know what would happen when and how and where. Apart from that, never get too violent on the road if you know a lorry guy or anybody is trying to cut you off. I think you shouldn't get down to their level of being idiots, right? Uh, Most importantly, you have to be a little patient, which is that is something that I've actually learned a lot, because a lot of people know me for being a little impatient on the road. Take the bad roads and just disappear.
Get away.
I think the motorcycling in the last few years have actually got me a lot of patience in me. I think if my mom listens to this, she'll have tears of joy. Patience and I would say patience is everything in motorcycling, because if you slow, be fast where you have to be fast. You know the roads. Hashtag send it. That's my hashtag. So patience, riding gear, and just know where you're going. That's about it.
Right.
Well, if I think most of the people who follow bikers, they would want to replicate what they exactly want to do. But to be honest, I don't look up to anybody else. I would want to take my own path. While I still have people who I follow and learn the riding techniques. A lot of people ask me, how do you train yourself for the to ride trails and enduro adventure stuff? Uh, to be very honest, I've not gone through any kind of training. I've just been riding with the right set of people, having good connections, and of course, a lot of videos on YouTube.
Right.
Look at them, practice them, and I would also advise people, say, if you're getting into adventure and riding, you would want to go to a good school. Okay, if I can name a few, you could
Sure.
look at Big Rock, Motor Farm. I think there are quite a few, but you would also want to look at who are the trainers and ensure your money is put in the right place. And most importantly, what people forget, say you train over the weekend, there's no practice or there's no trails done in that format for the next 2 months.
Right.
So you've totally lost whatever you've learned,
You
right?
learn.
And do never be scared of dropping a motorcycle. It's a machine that can be fixed. Don't be afraid of falling or riding gear. They'll take care of you.
I remember when I came to your store, so you had to kind of get the bike up on the footpath, and I
Yeah.
just wasn't confident of doing that. So he just got on the bike and took it out. I said, "Listen, I don't want to do this because I've dropped the bike." He said, "We've all dropped our bikes. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, I mean, dropping motorcycles, getting injured is a part and parcel of motorcycling. There is no way you can be without dropping a motorcycle. If you're not dropping a motorcycle on a trail or a ride, I think you're not doing justice to the motorcycle. And
Built to take a punishment. Isn't it?
yeah, you have to. I mean, the kind of falls I've had on this is just totally unimaginable. I've had it fall from 2-3 feet from a ledge.
On the edge. Wow.
Yeah, but she still survived. I survived. I mean, that's when you learn these mistakes, right? Okay, I fell the last time this way. I should be doing it the other way. If you don't try it, you wouldn't learn.
What's the most memorable ride you've ever done?
Most memorable,
I'm
right?
sure you've done a lot, but what's the most memorable road trip? Let's take road trip.
Okay. Well, if I have to talk about this incident, it could take about 30 minutes, but we'll cut it to maybe a minute or two.
Okay.
So, last 2 years ago, when I just picked up Alaska, we headed towards Gaza. So we rode all the way from Bangalore.
Right.
And the group of people I was riding with, they were all known people, a couple of my colleagues as well. And least did they know that the roads up north, I mean, there are no roads there. So we had a couple of them on super bikes, couple of them on inline fours.
Wow.
So that was a total, I wouldn't say disaster, but a learning well. And for me, the funny incident was, if you know, towards Rohtang, you take a right and then you go just down the road to Kaza, which is about 120 kilometers of pure off-road.
Right.
And that's the exact stretch where the Himalaya happens. So you can imagine the stretch.
Right.
While I had 6, 7 people behind me, the entire group, the minute I saw the trail, I just scooted. And I assumed that there would be network throughout. I don't know, I just saw the beautiful trails and I just took off.
Something possesses you.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very stupid thing that I did, but I actually enjoyed that stretch because about 80 kilometers doing the stretch, that took me about 3 hours.
Wow.
I then turned back to see
Where the
where are
others
these
were.
guys. And then I waited for another 5 hours. Every vehicle passed by in that stretch. I mean, that place was all isolated, right? So I had enough fuel on the motorcycle, everything was good, but I was just a little concerned what happened to these guys. Because if I had taken 3 hours, maybe they should have taken about 3.5 or maybe 4 hours with breaks and stuff. But then I realized that those bikes cannot make it down.
Make it down.
Yeah, make it down the the trail. So that's when I asked one of the cars that passed by. I think a car passed by after almost 6 hours.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
You waited for 6 hours.
6 hours.
Wow.
And that was already lunch, and there the light goes down very fast.
Very quick.
So I was looking at another 90 kilometers of off road, or I go back the 80 kilometers I came back. So the car guy said no, there were a group of big bikes. They turned back and went long back.
Oh.
In fact, he was a taxi guy, so he saw all of us.
Right.
And
you must have passed him.
I passed him, yes. So he said, don't go ahead, there'll be a lot of snowfall.
Right.
Go back. So I rode back alone, and it was pitch dark. Pitch dark. And in those trails and that cliff was just, it was a beautiful experience, but it was really scary. And later I reached the hotel they were staying. They're all just chilling there because none of those bikes could make it. Yeah, and then the next day we came back with the 2 other bikes which could actually come along, the 850 GS and the 310 GS.
Right.
Because I had an idea of what the roads were there, right? So just the 3 of us made it to that stretch, and we had, in 9 years, Kaza had received the most heaviest snowfall. I mean, that was a brilliant experience. We took about 2 hours to do about 3 kilometers.
So personal recommendation, I'm looking to now change bikes. I've ridden this for, like I said, 55,000 kilometers. So this is for the benefit of people who ride like me. So I do normally distance, mostly road. I love to do stuff like this, but it's not built for this. So what is your advice? What should my next bike be? So I'll tell you my dilemma, right? So this is a 400, right? Brilliant bike, very forgiving, super road grip when you're on a flat, when you're on the road, but not meant for trails and not really. Little bit of off-roading maybe if you change the tires. So what bike, so the 400 clearly for me is underpowered when I'm on the flat.
Correct.
Because the vibration levels increase quite a bit. So what would you recommend for somebody like me, people like me? So what should the next graduation?
Obviously you cannot go down the CC because you clearly are used to the 40 odd PS you get on this.
Right.
So if you're clearly into just highway touring, doing a little bit of soft roading, you would probably want to look at a couple of options, which I actually own. The Versus 650 is a beautiful bike, very comfortable, ample space to mount your luggage. You also have the V-Strom. I think now they've come out with the 800. The 650s are stopped, come out with the 800. I think under 10, I think the Versus 650 is quite a good deal. Because you get a lot of bike, you get adjustable suspension, you have comfortable seats, you have more than enough power. You're looking at about 68 PS for our roads, 50 bhp is more than enough.
Let's talk about horsepower and Indian roads and Indian conditions. So super bikes. So anything over, let's say 800, let's take 650, let's take anything over 650. Is it really worth having those bikes in India? Apart from being passionate about having a super bike, the practicality.
Yeah, that totally depends on the kind of riding you want to do. Like you do a lot of highway miles, right? You're looking at kilometers a day, proper straight straight roads. I think that's where your bigger bikes take you comfortably because on those roads, if say you're riding at 80, 90, your bike can barely do 100. You get tired as well.
Correct.
On a
Fatigue
large
sets in
road,
faster.
yeah, fatigue sets in fast. It's also the other way. You ride way too fast, say for the whole day, then you're zoned out and big zombie in the night. So I think anything between a 650 to a 800, 850, the Tigers
Is the ideal.
is a good.
Right.
Not saying the 1250s, the GSAs, and they're not too big, they're not too massive. They just look big. But once you swing your leg over those motorcycles, you can really appreciate the engineering that's gone behind it. Of course, you're paying a lot of money for it.
Of
You're
course,
paying
of
about
course.
20, 25 lakhs, right? But those are the kind of bikes we would all want to own.
So there was temptation a couple of years ago, right, to buy the Multistrada.
That's a
And I got
oven.
I got onto it. The balance was beautiful, even though I'm short and it's clearly a very much bigger bike than I should be riding, but the balance was perfect. So I know what you mean, but somehow it didn't give me the comfort levels that I kind of
I
wanted.
mean, if you look at the other ways, say you're doing just hardcore touring, you're looking at a lot of expense as well. First and foremost, your fuel. Because these bikes don't give you anything more than 17, 18, max 20.
Right.
Yeah. That's important. And you're looking at service cost of your motorcycles. The tires of these premium motorcycles, you have to give them good quality rubber. Otherwise, you're compromising on the safety of yourself, right?
Right.
And the service network. So you're riding in remote places, your Bajaj, the Royal Enfields, and even now the KTMs, they are pretty much serviceable anywhere inside any corner in India, right? But yeah, I think that's where the bigger bikes can be a little troublesome if you have any electronic issues on a BMW or a Ducati or a Triumph. There's another expense of you shipping the motorcycle to a dealership, getting it fixed. I mean, that's a lot of hassle.
So I'm definitely introducing a lot of gender balance in this entire series.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the women and the girls who come to you riding motorcycles. What kind of bikes do they ride? What kind of eggs them on? I'm sure they come to you for advice and their gear and stuff like that. So what is your advice for women who ride?
First thing is
a lot of them are
salute
solo
to
riders
them.
too.
Yeah.
A lot of them are solo riders too.
Solo riders, yeah. First thing is a big salute and huge respect for all the women bikers out there, especially the ladies who ride solo.
Yeah.
Canada, Lewis, you have a couple of other people around the world as well.
Right.
I think it takes a lot of courage, a lot of motivation and effort to do such stuff because being a lady doing solo trips, there's a lot of things you have to be careful about. Not just your safety, but the knowledge of the motorcycle, fixing stuff, helping yourself, helping the motorcycle. It's a lot of things. I mean, that is something that has to grow within you. You can't just do it looking at somebody else, right? If there's another lady who's doing around the world, you can't just be any other lady and say, I'm going to do it as well.
Bike and do it,
That's impossible. I mean, we've come across people like that, right? And I don't think they have continued in that way because it has to come within.
Naturally, right?
Naturally, yeah.
Right. Right. Kids who want to kind of follow their passion, right? So what is the balance? At what point do they say that they can switch? I'm sure it's individual for each and every person. But what are the factors that you kind of keep in mind when somebody wants to make riding or some kind of sport into a profession? Because in India, to make money out of a sport is not easy unless you're into cricket and you're recognized.
Yeah, very true.
So what about the other? There's so many alternative sports. There's so many different things that we can do. So what is your advice to the youngsters who think they can make it? So what are the pitfalls and what can they look forward?
See, let it not be motorcycling. It can be any sport, like you said, right? It's always the commitment, the hard work. Look at good people around you who can, support you, especially your parents, because I think I keep them here for whatever I do. They know what I'm up to. If I'm even doing a small shoot here, they know what I'm up to.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So I think getting the blessings and the green signal from your parents can actually take you a long way. because they're the only people who are going to be there and support you
when the chips are
tough
down. Yeah, I
times.
guess.
I mean, you might have money flowing in through your sponsors, your collaborations, you're working well, your company's paying you well, but again, if you don't have support of your family and your friends, I don't think things will go in the right direction.
Cool. Nice catching up with you, Ajit. Thank you
here,
so
same
much.
here. Same here. We should
And,
ride soon.
We should ride soon. We've never done a ride, but we should
Some
also,
trails.
Some trails, yeah. When I get another bike.
Yes, very soon, very soon.
I'll be back when I do that. So keep us posted, and we'll do a follow up at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
I would have liked to come to the store, but that's not possible today. Next time we'll do it at the store.
We'll do it at the store. We'll maybe because now we've expanded the store a little bit. We now have the first floor and the second floor.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So I think in the next few months we're also getting into premium riding gears as well.
Nice.
So it's the name is going to justify it: bike and biker.
Bike and biker.
But I just want to ask a random question. As a young biker myself,
You can come
riding
into
this,
the frame.
so I just wanted to ask Ajit, like I'm riding this 200 NS right now, and this isn't particularly a bike meant for these roads, and this is the first time I've come down, riding over here. Like any tips for me in general?
Well, to be honest, the bike can actually, any bike can take you anywhere. Is just how you are prepared for it. I mean, I might be a little stupid by taking the motorcycle to insane places. I really wouldn't recommend people doing that unless and until you, skill yourself a little bit and the trouble of falling and breaking parts. Again, you'll get there. I mean, I've seen people doing crazy stuff on NS and even the scooters, people who ride in Ladakh. That's not a joke. You're looking at two-stroke scooters in Ladakh. It clearly shows that it's not motorcycle.
There's one more. By the way, this is Adil. Adil's young and budding graphic designer, and he was kind enough to kind of help me to shoot today.
Of course.
But here's another one. So kids who buy gear, photography, GoPros, DJIs, and do stunts and go and kill themselves,
Well, one,
or get into horrendous accidents.
I would say one, it's a good thing if you ask me why, because we have proof of what you've done on the road. Why you might not be covered under the surveillance of the cameras around in your city.
Right.
You've recorded yourself crash or maybe killing people.
You'll get nicked.
Yeah, and I would totally recommend people starting off motorcycling not to get a camera and start riding rash and show people.
Correct.
Because that's the kind of information you get on YouTube these days, right?
The sensational stuff.
I mean, if you're looking at followers, that's really not the way, because say you have a subscriber meetup, even if you have 10 million and you're a guy who's doing all the rash riding and wheelies and all of that on the road, you do a subscriber meetup, you'll have 10, 15 people come in because there's no value add. The people who want to look at things, they would really, come to your meetup and want to take back a few things.
Right.
Yeah, not everyone wants to do wheelies on public roads. I mean, I do wheelies myself, but not on public roads.
Correct.
I do it in places like this in the trails where the bike has to do it to cross stuff.
Right.
But yeah, kids these days, well, they just get a little too overwhelmed looking at the other videos online. But don't kill yourself. It's a beautiful world out there. Just ride safe.
Cool.